The stars had always belonged to the strong. That was what the Carrick's Dominion believed. For hundreds of years, their fleets traveled across the galaxy, leaving nothing but ashes and silence behind. Planet after planet fell before their power. Their warships were sharp and black like blades of glass, their weapons burning through shields that other species once thought unbreakable. The Carricks were not monsters by nature. They simply believed strength was the only truth of existence. To them, peace was weakness and mercy was failure. Their children were raised with the idea that the weak existed to serve or perish, and so, when their fleets reached the outer rim, a region filled with small colonies and trading outposts, they found no challenge. The worlds there were calm, rich with minerals but defended only by fragile patrol ships. The Dominion's arrival was like a storm, swift and merciless. One by one, those worlds went dark. The Carrick's fleet commander, Admiral Vekar, stood at the viewing deck of his flagship, the Vortex Fang. His tall form shimmered in dark armor that reflected the blue light of the nearest star. Around him, screens showed collapsing colonies, surrender signals and flaming wreckage drifting through space. To him, it was a familiar sight. A song of victory played across the stars. "Another world falls," reported his second officer, bowing low. "The natives of the Torah system have surrendered. They are offering resources and labor." Vekar smiled, his thin lips curling upward. "Accept their offer. They will serve the Dominion well." The officer hesitated. "Their population is small, Admiral. Hardly enough to sustain." "Then they will serve until they cannot," Vekar interrupted coldly. "We do not need them to last. We only need them to obey." The officer bowed again and left. Vekar turned his gaze back to the stars. The Dominion now stretched over 1/3 of the known galaxy. Dozens of races had fallen under their control. The few that resisted were crushed, their names erased from every record. Yet something still bothered him. Reports had come from scout ships near an uncharted yellow star. The readings showed ruins of ancient trade stations, human-built structures, but there were no life signals. It seemed the place had been abandoned long ago. "Primitive world remnants," Vekar muttered, "unworthy of attention." But then another message arrived, one that caught his attention. The scout commander of the Ravenclaw, a fast recon cruiser, had sent a transmission. The message was short, filled with static. "Admiral," unknown vessel detected. Not responding. Troti, then silence. The transmission ended mid-sentence. At first, Vekar ignored it. Space was full of odd signals, derelict ships and pirates. But when a second scout disappeared in the same sector, he decided to take notice. He ordered his fleet to gather near the Rovira system, where the strange readings had come from. The star there was small and dim, surrounded by broken stations and shattered moons. It looked like the graveyard of a forgotten civilization. The Carrick ships arrived in formation, hundreds of them. Their engines glowed red as they scanned the region. The silence felt unnatural even to them. "Admiral, we are detecting a vessel," said the sensor officer. "Small in size. Metallic composition. Design unknown. Display it," Vekar ordered. On the central screen, the image appeared. A ship drifted slowly through the debris field. It looked old, its armor scratched and worn, its engines cold. It bore markings none of the Carrick's officers recognized. Across its side, faint letters could be seen. The translation drones tried to decode the language. After a few moments, the system translated one word. "Resolute." Vekar tilted his head. "Strange name. It looks abandoned. Shall we destroy it, Admiral?" one of the officers asked. "Not yet," Vekar replied. "It may contain technology or data we can use. Send a boarding team. Bring me whatever you find." Within minutes, a Carrick's boarding craft detached from the fleet and moved toward the silent ship. Its lights cut through the darkness as it approached the derelict hull. The communication link stayed open and the bridge crew listened. "Entering the vessel," came the voice of the boarding leader. "The air is breathable. Strange, there are no signs of decay. Everything looks preserved." Vekar listened quietly. "Do you detect life?" "No, Admiral. The ship is empty, but..." "Wait." The voice grew uncertain. "There are lights here. Systems are active. Something just powered on." "What kind of system?" Vekar asked sharply. Before the soldier could answer, the communication cut off. Static filled the bridge. Vekar frowned. "Re-establish the link." The comm officer tried. Nothing. "Show me the ship," Vekar commanded. The screen zoomed in on the strange vessel. It looked unchanged, floating quietly as if nothing had happened. Then slowly, one of its side panels began to glow faintly red. A symbol appeared, a blue circle surrounded by small stars. "What is that?" an officer whispered. Vakar said nothing. His eyes narrowed. He had seen many flags, many emblems of fallen worlds, but this one felt different. The design was simple, yet the energy behind it was impossible to explain. "Recall the rest of the boarding teams," he ordered at last. "But Admiral, we can still—" "Do it," Vakar snapped. "Something is not right." Moments later, the remaining boarding craft began to turn back toward the fleet. Then, without warning, the ship's engines came alive. Bright blue light burst from its rear thrusters and the scanners flared with power readings off the charts. "It's powering weapons," the officer shouted. "Raise shields," Vakar ordered. But before they could react, a beam of white light flashed from the small ship. It wasn't a laser or plasma shot. It was something far more focused, like a storm compressed into a single breath. The first Carix cruiser hit by the beam didn't explode. It simply vanished, erased atom by atom. The next one was torn apart by the shockwave. "Fire all batteries," Vakar roared. Hundreds of Carix weapons opened fire. Energy bolts and missiles flew through space, striking the strange ship head-on. Explosions covered it completely until the flames faded, revealing it still intact. "Not even a scratch. This is impossible," one officer whispered. "No material can withstand that." Vakar's hands tightened on the railing. "Find its weakness." Then the ship's comm system came online. A voice echoed through every Carix channel. It was calm, cold, and undeniably human. "Unidentified fleet. You are trespassing in restricted Terran space. Turn back now." The Carix officers looked at each other. The translation was clear. "Terran?" Vakar repeated, trying to recall the word. Somewhere in old Dominion records, he remembered reading about a long-lost species called humans, a small, fragile race that had vanished ages ago after their homeworld was destroyed. But that was ancient history. Humanity was supposed to be extinct. "This cannot be," Vakar said slowly. "They were erased. Their world burned." Yet the voice came again, firmer this time. "This is the human starship Resolute. Leave now." The Carix fleet hesitated. For the first time in their long reign, they felt something strange. Uncertainty. Vakar's pride, however, refused to bend. "All ships advance," he commanded. "We will destroy this relic and end this farce." The Carix armada surged forward, weapons blazing. The Resolute turned slightly, its engines burning brighter. It did not retreat. As the distance closed, its hull panels shifted, revealing multiple gun batteries that glowed with silent fury. Then, almost gracefully, it fired. The stars lit up. When the light faded, half the Carix fleet was gone. Ships had been torn apart without even making contact. The surviving vessel spun wildly, trying to stabilize. "Admiral," cried the comm officer, "our drives are failing. Systems offline. We're being jammed." "By what?" Vakar shouted. "Unknown energy field. It's reversing our own power flow." Vakar's heart raced as alarms filled the bridge. The once invincible Dominion fleet was powerless. The human ship remained still untouched. Then came the voice one last time. "This is your first and final warning. The Terran Republic does not tolerate invasion. Leave our skies or we will end this," and with that the transmission ended. The Resolute drifted silently once more like a ghost watching the stars. Vakar could not move. His pride shattered in that moment. The Dominion had faced countless enemies before, but never had it faced something that looked so calm, so certain, and somewhere deep inside he knew the age of the Carix might have just ended. The battle had ended as quickly as it began. All around Admiral Vakar's flagship, pieces of broken metal floated through the emptiness of space. The once great Carix fleet was in ruins. Dozens of ships drifted without power, their systems fried, their crews silent. In the center of the battlefield, the human warship, the HSS Resolute, remained motionless. Its dark hull gleamed faintly under the dim light of the nearby star. It made no attempt to chase, no sign of attack. It simply watched. The strange silence felt heavier than any weapon fire. On the bridge of the Vortex Fang, Vakar stood surrounded by broken screens and flickering lights. The air smelled of burnt circuits. His officers were shaken but alive. No one dared speak for a long time. Finally, his first officer, Terran, broke the silence. "Admiral, should we retreat?" Vikar's eyes narrowed. Retreat? The Dominion does not retreat. We regroup. But sir, Terran said carefully, half our fleet is gone. Our weapons are offline. That ship, whatever it is, defies all known technology. Vakar didn't answer right away. He walked toward the viewing window, staring at the distant human vessel. Its engines were dark, but faint energy pulses rippled across its surface like a heartbeat. Send a signal, Vakar said finally. Open communication with the alien ship. Terran hesitated. Are you sure, Admiral? The last time we heard that voice, Do it, Vakar ordered. The officer obeyed. The communication array hummed weakly, damaged from the earlier blast. A wideband message was sent across all channels. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Vakar of the Carrick's Dominion. We request to speak. Identify your purpose. For several moments there was no response, only static. Then suddenly the lights on the Resolute shifted, its side panels glowing faintly blue. A voice came through, calm and steady, yet filled with something deeper. Authority. This is Captain Mira Halen, commanding officer of the human starship Resolute. You are trespassing in Terran space. State your reason for invasion. Her tone was not loud, not angry, yet every Carrick's officer on the bridge felt a chill run through them. It was the kind of voice that came from someone who had seen too much war, and never lost. Vakar took a slow breath. Terran space? Your kind was wiped out long ago. Humanity is nothing but myth. There was a pause. Then the human captain replied, Myth or not, you stand in our territory. You've destroyed colonies, taken innocent lives. That ends now, Terran whispered. She knows about the Outer Rim raids. But how? Enough, Vakar said coldly. Activate the translator and patch me through. He straightened, speaking directly into the comlink. Captain Mira Halen, he began. Your ship is impressive, but you are alone. The Dominion commands thousands of worlds. You cannot stop us, the voice replied instantly. We already have. The bridge fell silent. The words were simple yet heavy with truth. Vakar clenched his jaw. Empty threats. Then test it, Mira said calmly. Approach again and you'll see what happens. The communication ended. Vakar's rage boiled. How dare she speak to me like that? He roared. Prepare the fleet. I will not be mocked by a ghost of a forgotten world. Terran didn't move. Admiral, our fleet cannot fight. Engines are cold. Power grids are failing. We must withdraw and repair, then do it, Vakar snapped. Get us out of this cursed system. But as the Carrick ships began to pull away, the Resolute moved. Its engines came alive, glowing white-hot. The ship turned gracefully, aligning itself with the retreating fleet. Suddenly, every Carrick ship's system froze again. Admiral, shouted an officer. Our drives are shutting down. What? Vakar barked. The human ship, it's emitting a pulse. Our systems are being overridden. On the main screen, waves of energy rippled outward from the Resolute. They weren't explosions or weapons fire. They were silent, invisible ripples. Electromagnetic and gravitational signals woven together in perfect control. The Carrick's Dominion had conquered hundreds of worlds, yet no one had ever used such technology against them. Their best scientists wouldn't even understand it. Shut down non-essential systems, Vakar ordered. Redirect all power to shields. It's not working, shouted another officer. Our systems are unresponsive. Vakar turned toward Terran. Find a way to fight back. Terran hesitated. Admiral, there is no way. Vakar stared at him, disbelief in his eyes. Are you surrendering? I am surviving, Terran replied quietly. Before Vakar could respond, the Resolute transmitted another message. This time it wasn't just a voice, it was a display. On every Carrick screen an image appeared. Stars, planets, and glowing dots marking systems across the galaxy. Each marked system displayed something terrifying. Recordings of Carrick's conquests. Villages burning, fleets firing, civilians fleeing. And beneath the recordings a single phrase appeared in bold, ancient letters. We remember. Mira's voice followed. We are the descendants of those who survived your wars. You thought we were gone. You were wrong. The Carrick's officers watched in silence. Some looked ashamed, others afraid. Vakar gritted his teeth. They think to scare us with old memories, pathetic. But even as he spoke, he noticed something. The human ship wasn't attacking anymore. It was scanning. Its sensors swept across the Carrick's vessels one by one, identifying, recording, observing. What are they doing? Terran asked quietly. Gathering data, Vakar said. They're studying us. Then suddenly the human ship spoke again. We are not here for revenge, Admiral Vakar. We are here to end the cycle of conquest. The galaxy will not burn again. How noble, Vakar said mockingly. You speak of peace after killing half my fleet? You brought war, Mira replied. We brought balance. Her words hit like iron. For the first time in his long career, Vakar had no answer. He turned away from the screen, gripping the rail so tightly his claws left marks. Admiral, said Terran softly. What do we do now? Vakar stared at the stars beyond the viewing window. We find out who these humans really are, and then we crush them. The Resolute did not pursue them. Instead, it drifted quietly near the wreckage, scanning the destroyed Karik ships. From its surface, tiny drones detached and moved through the debris field, gathering fragments, rescuing survivors from escape pods. Yes, rescuing. Inside one of the pods, a young Karik soldier opened his eyes. He expected capture or death, but instead found himself inside a bright, clean room. Machines hummed softly. A tall human in a white suit approached him. You're safe, the human said calmly. You were injured. We're giving you medical aid. The Karik soldier blinked, confused. You help enemies? The human smiled faintly. We help the living. Meanwhile, aboard the Resolute, Captain Mira stood on her bridge, surrounded by her crew. The air was calm but tense. Her second officer, Ben, turned from his console. All enemy ships retreating, Captain. They won't come back soon. Mira nodded. Send word to command. The Dominion has met its match. Ben hesitated. Do you think they'll believe us? The galaxy still thinks humans are gone. They'll believe when they see, Mira said quietly. We've been silent for too long. She looked out at the debris field, once a graveyard of victims, now a warning to every conqueror who believed humans were extinct. Begin recovery, she ordered. Save whoever we can. Even them. Ben blinked in surprise. Even the Kariks? Mira nodded. Yes, that's what makes us different. Far away on the Vortex Fang, Admiral Vakar watched as his damaged fleet limped toward the nearest safe system. His pride was wounded, his power shaken. Yet his mind burned with questions. Who were these humans really? How had they survived? And what other secrets lay hidden in the dark corners of the galaxy? He stared at the stars, his reflection faintly visible on the glass. They call themselves Terrans, he whispered. Then the Dominion will learn what it means to face them. But deep down, even he could not ignore the truth. The Karik's Dominion had met something beyond their understanding. Something that did not rule through fear, but through resolve. And the memory of that single human voice, calm, commanding, unbroken, would echo in his mind for a long time. Turn back now. Those 3 words, spoken without anger, carried more power than any weapon he had ever seen. The stars were quiet again. The battlefield drifted into silence. But somewhere in that silence, the future of the galaxy had already changed. The Karik's Dominion was no longer unstoppable. And the humans, they were no longer forgotten. Because one ship, one captain had reminded the galaxy that humanity endures. The silence after battle had a strange weight. The HSS Resolute floated alone among the drifting wreckage of the Karik's fleet. The stars around it were calm, shining like distant candles in an endless dark ocean. Inside the ship, the crew worked quietly. They had won, but none of them celebrated. Victory for them was never about pride. It was about survival and duty. Captain Mira Halen stood near the main window of the command deck. Her eyes followed the slow movement of broken Karik ships spinning through the void. There was sadness in her calm expression. They will return, she said softly. Her second officer, Ben, turned to her. Then we'll be ready again, Captain. We always are. Mira nodded but said nothing. Deep down, she knew the truth. This battle was only the beginning. The Karik's Dominion was vast, and they would not accept defeat easily. Ben adjusted the ship's systems. All recovery drones are back, Captain. We rescued 43 survivors, mostly Karik soldiers. Good, Mira said. Keep them under care. No harm must come to them. Ben frowned slightly. Even after what they did to the colonies? Yes, she said firmly. If we act like them, then what are we fighting for? Ben lowered his eyes. Understood. Meanwhile, in the ship's lower decks, the medical bay was filled with quiet beeping and the soft hum of machines. The rescued Kariks lay on clean beds, their wounds treated, their breathing steady. Among them was a young Karik's pilot named Rhinor, His scales were dull, his body weak, but his eyes opened slowly. The bright light of the room made him blink. A human medic stood beside him, smiling kindly. "You're awake," the medic said gently. Renor tensed. You are human." "Yes," the medic replied simply. "And you are safe now." "Safe?" Renor repeated. "Why?" "We attacked you. We destroyed your colonies." The medic looked down for a moment. "Maybe. But we don't believe in letting others die when we can save them." Renor stared at him in confusion. "You should hate us," the medic gave a soft smile. "Maybe some of us do. But hatred doesn't rebuild worlds." The young Carix had no answer. For the first time in his life, an enemy had shown him mercy. On the upper decks, the crew of the Resolute gathered in the main strategy chamber. A large holographic map glowed at the center of the room, showing several star systems around the Rovira region. Mira studied it carefully. "The Carix will regroup here," she said, pointing to the edge of the map. "They'll come back with a larger force," Ben nodded. "And we're only one ship." "Yes," Mira said, "but not alone." She pressed a command on the console and new dots appeared on the map, hidden signals deep in space. Ben's eyes widened. "Other ships?" Mira smiled faintly. "Old allies. The Terran Republic may have been silent for years, but it never stopped watching." A murmur of surprise passed through the crew. "Then why didn't we reveal ourselves earlier?" asked one of the engineers. "Because," Mira said quietly, "the galaxy wasn't ready. Every time humans rose, others feared us. We learned to wait, to prepare, to build in the shadows." She looked around at her crew. "But the Carix have forced our hand. Now we rise again." The room fell silent, filled with quiet determination. Far away, deep in the cold of space, the Carix Dominion fleet limped home. The once proud Admiral Vakar sat in the command chair of his damaged flagship. Sparks flickered from the broken panels and smoke filled the air. He stared at the screens showing casualty reports. Half his fleet lost, thousands dead. The Dominion had never suffered such defeat. Terran, his loyal first officer, stood beside him. "Admiral, we've reached the edge of Dominion space. Shall I report to High Command?" Vakar didn't respond immediately. His eyes were fixed on one small recording replaying on the screen, the image of the human warship standing alone against the entire fleet. He spoke slowly. "No one will believe it," Terran frowned. "Then we must make them believe. The Dominion must know what we faced." Vakar turned sharply. "You think they will listen? They will call it an excuse, a lie to hide our failure. Then what do we do?" Vakar's gaze hardened. "We learn. We study that ship. And when we return, we destroy them." Terran hesitated. "Admiral, permission to speak freely?" Vakar nodded. "I saw their mercy. They could have finished us all, yet they didn't. They even rescued some of our soldiers. Why?" Vakar looked at him coldly. "Mercy is weakness." "Maybe," Terran said softly. "Or maybe it's something stronger than fear." Vakar turned away. He didn't want to admit that a small part of him agreed. Back on the Resolute, Captain Mira entered her private quarters. The lights were dim, the only sound the quiet hum of the ship. On her desk lay an old photograph, faded and torn. It showed a small group of humans standing beside a flag bearing the same blue circle and stars that decorated the Resolute's hull. She picked it up and smiled faintly. "We kept our promise," she whispered. The ship's AI spoke through the room's intercom. "Captain, transmission received from Earth Command." "Put it through." A holographic image appeared, a man in a white uniform with silver stripes. His face was lined with age and worry. "Mira," he said, "we received your report. The Dominion knows we're here now." "I know," Mira replied. "They'll come again. Do we have confirmation on their strength?" Mira nodded. "They're rebuilding fast. But their morale is shaken. The Resolute alone caused them panic." The commander gave a thin smile. "Then perhaps it's time. The galaxy has forgotten who we are. It's time they remember." Mira's voice was calm. "Then we move as planned?" "Yes, the old fleets will awaken. Earth's children will rise again." The hologram faded. Mira sat in silence for a moment, then whispered to herself, "So it begins." Hours later, in the deep void between stars, energy signatures began to appear. At first one, then several, then hundreds. Hidden human warships sleeping for decades in forgotten corners of the galaxy began to awaken. Their engines flared to life, their systems humming like the heartbeats of giants. Each bore the same mark, the blue circle and the stars, and at their head stood the HSS Resolute, guiding them like an old guardian returning to duty. Ben stared at the radar in awe. So many ships. I didn't know we still had this many left. Mira smiled faintly. We never lost them. We only waited for the right time. Meanwhile, deep within the Dominion capital world, panic was spreading. News of Vakar's defeat had reached the High Council. The rulers of the Kariks sat in their golden chamber, their faces filled with anger and disbelief. A single ship destroyed half a fleet? One counselor shouted. Impossible. Another slammed his clawed hand on the table. You expect us to believe a ghost story? Humans are extinct. Vakar stood before them, his armor scorched and his voice steady. Believe what you will. But I saw it. I heard the voice of their captain. I saw their weapon tear through our strongest shields like dust. Then what do you propose? Asked the council leader. Vakar lifted his head. Prepare for war. Not conquest, survival. The counselors looked at each other uneasy. The Dominion had never prepared for survival before. They had only ever conquered. Days passed. Across the galaxy, whispers spread of a human ship. Ancient, powerful, unstoppable. Some called it a legend. Others said it was vengeance returned from the stars. But for many enslaved worlds, it was hope. In the mining colonies once ruled by the Kariks, people began to look to the sky. In the quiet moments of night, they spoke of blue lights moving among the stars, silent watchers that defended the weak. The humans had become a myth once more, but this time, a living one. Aboard the Resolute, Mira stood with her crew as the fleet formed behind them. On the large viewing screen, hundreds of human ships stretched across the darkness, ready for whatever came next. Ben smiled. Feels strange, doesn't it? After all these years, humanity finally shows its face again. Mira nodded. It's not about pride, Ben, it's about balance. We won't start wars, but we will finish the ones others bring. He grinned. That sounds very human. Mira allowed herself a small laugh. Yes, it does. The Resolute's engines glowed brighter and the massive fleet followed its lead. For the first time in centuries, the humans moved together, not to conquer, but to protect. And as they vanished into the starry distance, one message echoed across all channels, repeating softly through the galaxy. We are the Terran Republic. We are not gone. We are awake. The galaxy had not known fear like this for centuries. Word of the HSS Resolute and the human fleet spread faster than any warship could fly. The Kariks Dominion, once untouchable, found themselves unprepared for a threat that had returned from legend. Across dozens of star systems, commanders halted their plans. Fleets that had always been aggressive froze in place, unsure if their weapons would even function. Worlds that had bowed under Kariks' rule whispered stories of a blue star and the humans who had survived. On a small mineral-rich planet in the Atron sector, colonists watched the sky with binoculars. Fires and explosions were no longer their worry. The stories had already reached them. They're coming, a miner named Rena said to her brother. The humans, they've returned. Her brother shook his head. It's just a rumor. Nothing more. But as night fell, tiny lights appeared between the stars. At first, a few dots moving slowly. Then more. Hundreds. Thousands. The fleet moved in perfect formation, following the distant lead of a ship that glowed brighter than all the others. The Resolute. Rena's eyes widened. It's real. Her brother fell silent, unable to deny the evidence above. Far away, deep in Kariks' territory, panic had set in among the Council of Warlords. Reports flooded in. Fleets immobilized, colonies abandoned, entire systems turning away from the Dominion. One counselor, Vorak, slammed his clawed hand onto the holographic table. This cannot be. How can one species, thought extinct, cause this much chaos? Another counselor, Tyran, whispered nervously. They are not just attacking. They are reorganizing, retrieving survivors. Even enemies are being spared, Vorak growled. Mercy is a weakness. We will crush them when the fleet rebuilds. Perhaps, Tyran said softly. But the galaxy already sees them differently. Fear spreads faster than fire. Humans are no longer a story, they are hope. Vorak turned away. His scales rippled in agitation. We will see whose hope survives. Back aboard the HSS Resolute, Captain Mira Halen studied the map of nearby star systems. The fleet behind her was small in number compared to the Dominion. but it was strong in spirit, trained and prepared. Ben, standing beside her, asked, "Captain, how many colonies have we saved so far?" Mira's eyes didn't leave the map. "Too many to count," she said softly. "And not all of them knew they were being saved until now. We are their shield," Ben frowned. "Will they follow us? Believe us?" "They will," Mira said confidently. "Humans have always been underestimated. That's our advantage. The galaxy may have forgotten our name, but it cannot forget what humans do." As the human fleet advanced, they encountered the first survivors of the Dominion's attacks, abandoned colonies, battered stations, and warships crippled by previous battles. On one small trade hub, the crew of the Resolute deployed repair drones. They worked quickly, fixing life support systems and restoring power. The humans were efficient but careful, treating all survivors, Carics and others, with equal care. A young Caric soldier, Rhinor, watched silently. He had been rescued in Part 2 and now stood with curiosity as humans repaired a ship he once thought of as inferior. One of the engineers, a tall human named Thomas, noticed him. "You can help if you want," Thomas said kindly. "Even if you are Carics," Rhinor hesitated, then nodded. For the first time he felt purpose beyond war. The humans were not his enemies. They were teachers, showing him a different way to fight, survive, and live. Meanwhile, in the Dominion's outer fleets, word of human mercy and power spread panic. Commanders argued among themselves, unsure whether to advance, retreat, or surrender. Their communications were filled with fear and disbelief. In one cruiser, a young Carics officer whispered, "If even half of this is true." "The humans are unstoppable," her commander growled. "Do not speak such weakness." "But it's true," the officer said quietly. "They did not destroy every enemy. They repaired ships, rescued soldiers, and yet we cannot touch them." Silence fell. Even the strongest Carics felt the weight of human strategy. Calm, precise, and merciful, yet deadly when necessary. On the bridge of the Resolute, Mira monitored the Dominion fleets carefully. "They are regrouping," she said. "But we don't need to attack." "Not yet," Ben frowned. "Why not?" "We could finish them while they're weak." Mira shook her head. "No, the galaxy must learn balance. We are not conquerors. The Dominion will face consequences, but we do not annihilate. That's what separates us." Ben considered this. "Even if they return with more ships?" Mira nodded. "Even then, we fight to protect, not to dominate. That is the Terran way." Word reached nearby empires who had once feared Carrick's conquest. News of humans returning sparked hope and courage. On a council world of the Lauren species, ambassadors watched holographic reports of the Resolute and its fleet. "They fight not for empire, but for protection," said one elder. "If humans are this capable, maybe the galaxy has a chance." A young ambassador added, "Perhaps we can join them. If humans are allies, no conqueror can stand against us." The elder nodded slowly. "Then we must prepare. Humans may be our shield now." Back in the Dominion's capital, panic had reached a peak. The council called emergency meetings. Every fleet and colony was on high alert. Ships once confident of victory now stayed docked, unable to move. Rumors of the human fleet had spread even faster than any official report. Admiral Vakar paced the floor of his flagship, anger and fear battling within him. He had faced countless enemies, but humans, this single species, had awakened something beyond his understanding. His first officer, Terran, approached. "Admiral, they're moving strategically, not randomly. They are reorganizing entire systems. Even damaged colonies are being recovered and strengthened." Vikar's claws clenched. "Then we must adapt faster. We will learn their weaknesses. We will strike when the time comes." Terran hesitated. "And if there are no weaknesses?" Vikar's eyes darkened. "Then we will learn, or we will fall." As the human fleet moved from system to system, it became clear that they were not there to dominate. Each rescue, each repair, and each message sent across the stars showed a civilization that remembered the values of old Earth: compassion, strategy, and strength combined. Across the galaxy, the message was clear: humans had returned. And they were unstoppable in ways the conquerors could not comprehend. Rena, on the Itran colony, looked up at the stars as the fleet passed. Her eyes sparkled with hope. Maybe the humans really are here to save us," she whispered. Her brother nodded slowly. "If they are, the stars are no longer ours to fear." The Karix fleets, once proud and unchallenged, were now scattered and uncertain. Commanders argued with each other, fearing the next encounter. Some considered retreat, others prepared for battle, but a quiet dread had settled in their ranks. Even Admiral Vekar, once the most confident leader of the Dominion, understood the truth. Humans were not simply a threat. They were a force that redefined the meaning of power. Aboard the Resolute, Mira addressed her fleet. Today we have reminded the galaxy that humanity is alive. We have shown that protection is stronger than fear. We have begun a new chapter. Ben stood beside her. The Dominion will not stop us, Captain. They'll try, but... Mira interrupted softly. They will try, but they will learn that humans fight not for conquest, but for justice. And that is something no empire can defeat. The fleet glowed in the distance, ready to move further into the stars. One by one, distant planets and colonies would see them. One by one, hope would spread. And as the Resolute led the Terran fleet forward, a single truth echoed across the galaxy. Humanity was back. Humanity would protect. Humanity could not be forgotten. The galaxy had seen conquerors before, but it had never seen humans awaken like this. Fear had spread among the stars. Panic had reached the Dominion. And for the first time in centuries, the weak, the oppressed, and the forgotten knew someone was watching over them. The Terran Republic was awake. The humans had returned, and nothing would ever be the same. The galaxy held its breath. Wherever humans had appeared, hope followed. Systems once trembling under the Karix dominion now watched the blue and white fleet move silently across the stars. The Terran Republic had awakened fully, and the HSS Resolute led the charge, not to destroy, but to protect. Captain Mira Halen stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her hands resting lightly on the railing. Around her, her crew worked quietly, focused yet calm. Every move had been calculated. Every decision had purpose. "Captain," said her second officer, Ben, "the Dominion fleet has been gathering near the Vryn system. They're massing their forces. We might face their largest concentration yet." Mira's eyes did not leave the holographic map. "Then we will meet them there," she said firmly. "But we fight as we always have, strategically, without unnecessary destruction." Ben nodded. "Understood. But they're strong. Their pride, it might blind them to reason." Mira turned to him. "Then we must show them the power of discipline, courage, and humanity." Far away, aboard the Karix flagship, Admiral Vekar prepared for what he believed would be the final battle. His remaining fleets had regrouped, repaired, and rearmed. Thousands of ships now hovered near the Vryn system, glowing with firepower and malice. "This time," Vekar said to his officers, "we will destroy them. One ship cannot defeat the Dominion twice." Terran, his first officer, hesitated. "Admiral, the humans are different. They do not fight like other species. Our scans show coordination we cannot match, even with our full fleet." Vekar's eyes narrowed. "Then we adapt. We must exploit any weakness." Terran spoke carefully. "They have none that we can detect. Every system we attack is prepared. Every ship is ready. Even the smallest humans are trained," Vekar growled. "Then we will overwhelm them by numbers. The galaxy belongs to the strong, and we are the strongest." Yet deep down, Vekar could not deny it. A small, quiet fear had taken root. Humans were not what they seemed. They were not just survivors. They were legends awakened. The Resolute arrived at the Vryn system before the Karix fleets could fully organize. Mira activated the fleet-wide comm system, broadcasting a message in every language known across the galaxy. "This is the Terran Republic. You have brought war to our neighbors and our allies. We do not seek conquest. We seek justice. Leave now, or face the consequences." The message echoed across star systems. On some worlds, it inspired hope. On others, it spread fear. But to the Karix, it was a challenge. Vekar's comm officer growled. "They speak to us as equals, Admiral. They threaten us openly." Vekar slammed his clawed hand onto the console. "Then we will remind them who rules the stars." The battle began quietly at first. Human ships moved with precision, striking only when necessary. Their weapons were accurate, disabling Karix systems without causing unnecessary casualties. They targeted engines, shield arrays, and weapon control centers, leaving as much of the enemy alive as possible. The Karix retaliated with full fury, firing energy beams and missiles. Explosions lit up the void. Ships collided, shields flared, and debris tumbled slowly through the darkness. Yet every time the Dominion advanced, the humans anticipated their moves. They outmaneuvered, outsmarted, and outlasted them. From the bridge of the Resolute, Mira watched the battlefield with calm determination. "Every fleet has a breaking point," she said softly. "We just need to guide them there." The battle raged for hours. Carrick's commanders grew desperate. Their pride demanded victory, yet they could not ignore the efficiency of human strategy. Ships that had never been damaged now fell silently, systems offline, engines cold. Admiral Vakar's flagship was under attack. The Resolute fired precise energy pulses, disabling weapons and shields without destroying the hull. Vikar roared in fury, unable to comprehend why the humans spared his ship while dismantling his fleet. "They fight with honor," he growled. "Impossible." Terran stepped forward, his voice low. "Perhaps this is why they survive, Admiral. They do not waste strength on hatred. They use it on purpose." Vakar turned sharply. "Do not speak such foolishness." But even he knew, deep in his heart, that the humans were beyond anything he had ever faced. Across the battlefield, Carrick's soldiers watched as the humans moved through wreckage and rescued survivors, friend and foe alike. On one cruiser, a group of young Carrick's warriors hesitated. Their weapons aimed at humans, yet their instincts faltered. They had seen the mercy, precision, and courage of the humans. Renor, the young Carricks who had been rescued in earlier battles, now worked beside the humans, showing them damaged control panels and weak points. They will listen if we help," he whispered to himself. And slowly the remaining Carrick soldiers began to understand, a lesson they had never learned in centuries of conquest. Strength alone was not enough. Hours turned into a full day of relentless battle. The Carrick's Dominion's fleets were reduced to a fraction of their original numbers. Systems once confident now trembled with fear. Commanders reported to Vikar, their voices shaking. "Admiral, they are everywhere. Our forces cannot coordinate. Every plan fails." Vikar slammed the table. "Then we fight to the last ship." But even as he spoke, the truth was clear. The Dominion had met something it could not break. The humans were not only stronger in strategy, they were indestructible in spirit. Finally, the decisive moment came. The Resolute moved through the battlefield, its engines glowing with quiet power. It did not destroy. It immobilized, guided, and protected. The remaining Carrick ships, now powerless and trapped, were forced to surrender. Aboard the Resolute, Mira broadcast a single message. "Admiral Vakar, surrender. Your fleet is disabled. Further resistance will only bring unnecessary suffering. Humanity does not conquer stars. We protect them. Accept mercy and you will live." Vakar stared at the message. His pride screamed for defiance, but his mind knew the truth. Half his fleet destroyed, systems offline, and humans showing mercy, he could not continue. Finally, he bowed his head. "We surrender," he said, voice heavy with defeat. The Resolute's crew moved quickly, disabling weapons and securing prisoners. Humans treated the Carrick's captives with care, ensuring their survival. Many Carricks were astonished. Never had a conqueror shown mercy after victory. Renor watched silently, his eyes wide. This is how they fight?" he whispered to one human engineer. "Yes," the engineer replied softly. "Strength without cruelty. Victory with honor. That is what it means to be human." Renor's scales shined faintly under the medbay lights. For the first time he felt respect, not fear. Across the galaxy, news of the Carrick surrender spread instantly. Star systems once trembling in fear now celebrated hope. Worlds that had been oppressed began to rebuild. Allies of humans, hidden colonies, old Terran outposts emerged from hiding, ready to support the newly awakened Republic. Even distant empires who had never encountered humans before began sending messages of alliance. The galaxy had remembered what it meant to have guardians among the stars. Back aboard the Resolute, Mira stood with her crew on the bridge. She gazed at the captured Carricks, the repaired fleets, and the distant stars. Ben spoke softly. "Captain, we did it. The Dominion is finished." Mira shook her head slightly. "Not finished. They may rise again. But today we reminded the galaxy that humanity endures. That strength can be tempered with mercy, that we protect, not conquer." She turned to the crew, voice firm and calm. "Prepare for the next steps. We rebuild, we guide, and we ensure the galaxy never forgets humanity again." The crew nodded, understanding the gravity of their mission. They had not just won a battle, they had restored hope. Aboard the captured Dominion flagship, Vakar was brought before Mira. He looked at her carefully, expecting anger, hatred, or punishment, but Mira spoke quietly, almost gently. You could have died, but you live. Learn from this. Humanity does not destroy unnecessarily. We fight for balance, not for pride. Vakar stared at her. You could have destroyed us. Why did you not? Mira's voice was calm and firm. Because strength without mercy is meaningless. Power without purpose is empty. We protect the stars, not claim them. Vakar bowed slightly, humbled. For the first time in centuries, he understood the true meaning of power.